What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. More bowl game preview predictions are coming your way. Bowl season is opening today. Got bowl games going on while talking about this one. But this one is the Famous Toastery Bowl from Charlotte, North Carolina, as we transition in the bowl games that are going to be taking place next week, or I guess once the weekend is over, right? So like the next week after the weekend. You guys know what I mean. This is the Famous Toastery Bowl from Charlotte, North Carolina, featuring the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers and the Old Dominion Monarchs. So we'll talk about everything Hilltoppers and Monarchs here coming up. But before we dive on into that, thank you so much for the support the channel has seen as of late, especially during the regular season. Continue to show your support during bowl season. Like, comment, share, do anything you can to help support the channel. Does mean a lot to me. Watching the video, subscribing are also really big ways for you to help support what I do here on YouTube. So all the support you guys have given has meant a lot to me to continue to show your support. And I've said this before, every bowl game preview prediction, sometimes it can be a little tricky to tell, okay, here's who's opting out, here's who's entered the transfer portal, things like that. So I have a list of names here on my second monitor. If there are some names that come out later that have opted out, or maybe a name that I don't mention, Hilltopper fans, Monarch fans, leave it in the comment section down below. I'd be very appreciative and be, again, always interested to hear what you guys have to say regarding this contest. Let's dive on in to the stats both of these teams have put up so far this season. We will start with the designated road team. That is the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. This is a team that maybe fell a little bit below under expectations so far this year, but they are led by a very, very dynamic quarterback, and that is Austin Reed. Had 3,340 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions offensively for this team. Now, it is still really unknown if Austin Reed is going to be playing in this game. The 11 interceptions have been a problem for Austin Reed this year, but if he is not ready to go, you lose a really, really dynamic weapon, and this is a Western Kentucky rushing attack that hasn't really been the best all year either, just averaging averaging just over 100 yards per game on the ground. And actually that number is wrong. It should be 386 total yards of offense, as the rushing and passing numbers I do believe are right. So when you take a look at this Western Kentucky offense, if Austin Reed is not ready to go, that's a big part of this offense that is going to be lost. Other than that, you do have quite a bit of offensive linemen that have entered the transfer portal, and so Western Kentucky's been a really good offensive line this year, only allowing 9 sacks all season. That is less than a sack per game. That's actually 3/4 of a sack per game, so only around 1 or 2 sacks in there. Actually, that's 2 sacks every 3 games, if that makes sense. So losing those offensive linemen definitely going to put a big hamper on this team, and whether or not Austin Reed is ready to go is definitely going to be key as well. Now, this team has not run the ball exceptionally well. Still a lot of good running back talent in there, and you have a really dynamic weapon in Malachi Corley among some other really good wide receivers there as well. So if Austin Reed is not ready to go, I do believe that it's going to be Turner Helton that will be the quarterback. He's 8 for 8 with 82 yards and a touchdown so far this season. So, again, keep your eye on Austin Reed if he's going to end up playing on Monday or not. Otherwise, this is a very dynamic offense, especially through the air. When you move over to the defensive side of the ball here as well, the defense definitely has struggled, especially struggled in rush defense, where it's averaging, or I should say, where it's giving up almost 190 yards per game. The secondary definitely has some pretty good moments, although, again, it's not super elite. 38 pass defended, however, 14 picks. This is a team that's also recovered 11 fumbles, so they know how to force turnovers. Again, if you add those two numbers up, they forced 25 turnovers on the year, generated a fair amount of sacks as well with 24 sacks. That's 2 sacks per game so far this season. But this is also a team that really their tackling distribution doesn't just come for 1 or 2 guys. In fact, the leading tackler on this team is a defensive back by the name of Talik Allen, who only has 50 tackles. So some of the tackling production going to have to be picked up from around this defense. Again, that's averaging opponents to, I should say, allowing opponents to get almost 20 or just over 28 points and almost 430 yards per game. When you take a look at this Old Dominion offense, as we move now to that side, this is just not a super dynamic offense. This is not an Old Dominion offense that statistically is going to wow you. I'll go through a couple of statistics here in a moment, as Old Dominion really only has one notable player offensively entering the transfer portal, and that is Javon Harvey. Had 29 catches, 391 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's tied for the team lead in receiving touchdowns, tied there with Dominic Dutton. That big play threat over the top, only has 6 catches all year. So a lot of your leading receivers here are going to be coming back here in this game. That includes guys like Raymello Murphy and Kelby Williams. Your top 2 wide receivers will be back, as well as your top rushers there as well. Kadarius Callaway, as well as Keyshawn Wicks. So both of those guys will be coming back here for this team. Your quarterback is Grant Nelson, 2,026 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 7 picks. Again, this is just not a super dynamic offense. Turnovers have plagued them at points this year. It's not a very good team on third down, and this offensive line, statistically speaking, is the worst in the country. Now, they are not bad in run protection. You see that's a team that's averaging 150 rush yards per game. They know how to be able to create gaps for this talented running back room to find. However, they are abhorrent in pass protection. There's really no better way to put it. Old Dominion's offensive line is just not good in pass protection. That's something Western Kentucky definitely is going to look to exploit here in this game. And defensively, this team is not super elite either. However, it is this side of the ball defensively that has been keeping them in games. If Old Dominion finds themselves down behind the 8 ball by 10, maybe even 14 points, you're not necessarily going to come back and win. But Old Dominion, the way that they have gotten into bowl games, or I should say the way that they've got into a bowl game this season, the way that they've been able to win games is by keeping it close and finding ways to win down the stretch. That's in part of their offense doing what it needs to do, but the defense stepping up as well. Now, there is a pretty notable defensive player out, and it's going to be their third leading tackler, actually, in safety Terry Jones. Had 104 tackles. Your defense is led by 2 guys with over 120 tackles. And yes, this is a real stat I am about to read, but Jason Henderson, who's an absolute tackle machine, 167 tackles this year, led, or I should say right behind him in the linebacker room is Wayne Matthews with 121 tackles so far this season. Those guys do absolute work, and it's the defense that helps keeps things close so the offense does enough to be able to help this team win games. Will that be the case here? Well, it leads me into my what to watch for, kind of like your keys to the game. It's just some things I think you should keep an eye on while you guys are paying attention here to this game. Let's go ahead and take a look at really what to watch for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. I think, again, Old Dominion, if this game becomes a track meet, you take a look at your third bullet point down there for Old Dominion, the Monarchs do not want to let this one become a shootout, because if it gets that way, Western Kentucky has a ton more offensive talent than what this Monarch team does. And again, this is an Old Dominion team that does not like playing from behind, especially when it is just a monster lead for their opponent. So if Western Kentucky can get out, score 14 quick points while keeping the Monarchs off the board, and if you can create explosive plays throughout, which is really going to be helped if Austin Reed plays it in this game, that is just even more of an advantage for Western Kentucky. But in terms in terms of what the defense needs to do, hey, it is really quite simple. Again, this is not an Old Dominion offense that is going to wow you with its talent, but it does efficiently move the ball down the field. It's not one that's going to control the clock, but it does move the ball downfield, or it can, at a pretty efficient rate. So you need to make this offensive line pay. When they drop back to pass, hammer them with the pass rush and really get home with your run defense as well. But I've talked about it pretty much all, or I guess I've mentioned it a couple times throughout this video. Will this team find a spark if Austin Reed doesn't play? Again, it's still kind of up in the air whether or not he's going to play. As of recording this video, I don't believe he's either committed or said whether he is opting out of this bowl game. Again, has over 3,300 yards passing this year for the Hilltoppers. He's a dynamic offensive weapon from the quarterback position. Again, it will be Helton who plays if Reed doesn't, and I think Helton will do fine, but there's an explosiveness that will be missed if Austin Reed does not play. That'll be something to watch out for. Quickly going through the keys here for the Monarchs, you have to keep the Hilltoppers out of the backfield, specifically in the pass protection. I've kind of talked about this a little bit already. Again, this is a Monarch team that is really not bad at being able to create runs. This is the team that does run the ball first. Again, 150 rush yards per game. The offensive line is not bad. In run protection, it is terrible. Downright terrible in pass protection. If you can let my apologies, quarterback's name is slipping my mind. If you can let Grant Wilson sit back there, throw the ball to get out to some of these wide receivers, and he has time, hey, that's going to bode well here for Old Dominion. But defensively, especially, this is true if Austin Reed plays, but I think it's true no matter what. The secondary has to step up. This is an Old Dominion team that, although the stat line might not show it, it's just not a very good secondary either. It is definitely led by this defensive front, by your tackling machines in the linebacker room. Now, statistically, Old Dominion does struggle against the teams that can run the ball a little bit better than they can throw, but I think they're going to have a hard time defending the pass here. And again, don't let this one become a shootout if you are the Monarchs. This is a team that does not like playing from behind, and I think that is going to cost them here in this game. Now, the uncertainty of Austin Reed playing or not is definitely going to have an impact here in this game, and I think it's why Old Dominion is the 3.5-point favorite there. I think it's because Austin Reed maybe likely will not be playing. So if it is Helton that's ready to go, I think it is going to be a very tight-knit affair. However, I think just with the way that this Old Dominion offensive line is schemed and with the way that it works, I think Western Kentucky, whether it's Reed or Helton, will make enough big explosive plays. They have a ton more offensive talent than Old Dominion. Now, this is an Old Dominion team that has continued to find ways to win in these close, tight-knit games. I just don't think it is going to go their way here in the Famous Toastery Bowl. I think the Hilltoppers will top the hill and beat the Monarchs there on Monday. Let me know how you guys see this one playing out in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.